Iconoclasts, rebels, revolutionaries, anarchists. All of these descriptors could fit for the Rockerboy role in Cyberpunk Red. Hello there, and welcome to the latest video in my series, How to Run Cyberpunk Red. We're diving into the roles for Cyberpunk Red, aka the classes. First up, we're going to examine one of the more social-focused roles, the Rockerboy. I'll be going over the background information about the role ability associated with Rockerboys, character creation suggestions, and how Rockerboys can fit into a crew of edge runners. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to get notified when I drop more content like this on the channel, and check the link tree in my bio for more ways to support me and my channel. The term Rockerboy was actually born from James Manson, aka Rockerboy Manson. Rockerboy Manson was a rock star who pushed a social agenda of rebellion and change as the world in the cyberpunk universe was falling apart during the 1990s. At a concert in 1997, Manson was beaten to death by UK cops in the midst of a performance, sparking a riot that left a significant number of people dead. From that point forward, any artist who pushed the boundaries of music or art, who fought for change, who tried to tear down the walls erected by the megacorporations and governments, was called a Rockerboy. With that being said, it's absolutely appropriate to go with a more gender-neutral term like rocker, or a different gendered term like rocker girl. For the purposes of this breakdown, I'll use the term Rockerboy, since that is what it's known by within the core rulebook and the cyberpunk universe as a whole. The most famous of the Rockerboys in the cyberpunk universe is, of course, Johnny Silverhand. I won't do a deep dive into Johnny for this video, but I will when I get around to creating the Legends of Cyberpunk video covering him. Other characters that fit the bill of a Rockerboy can be found in Cyberpunk 2077, such as Carrie Eurodyne and Lizzie Wizzy. Both of them fit the more corporate-friendly style of Rockerboy that you see in the 2070s of the Cyberpunk universe, where the corporations have co-opted the look and sound of the Rockerboy movement for their own ends. In the time of the Red, however, Rockerboys often serve as local agitators, with some eventually making their way to the big-time stages and mass audiences. The streets are where Rockerboys make their name, either as solo artists or in a group. Rockerboys also don't have to be musicians, strictly speaking. They can be performance artists, slam poets, community organizers, anyone who uses artistic talents, including oratory, to inspire change in their communities. Because of this, Rockerboys can be considered a face of the crew, the person who is most likely going to do the talking when social situations arise in-game. Now, that doesn't always mean that a Rockerboy will be the best talker in every situation. If your crew is out on the streets, a Rockerboy has a good chance of being able to get the crew out of trouble. If your crew is staring down a bunch of corpos, you'd better hope one of them is secretly a fan of the Rockerboy, or things aren't going to go well. From a gameplay standpoint, this is shown through the role ability Rockerboys have called Charismatic Impact. As a Rockerboy increases their rank in this ability, they gain access to larger venues for their artistic craft to be showcased, and the kind of pull they have with their audience increases exponentially as well. A Rockerboy at the early ranks can get a single fan to let the Rockerboy crash at their pad for free, or make a run to get something the Rockerboy needs. At higher ranks, a Rockerboy can start citywide riots. The term cult of personality fits well for a Rockerboy who manages to reach the highest ranks in their role ability. Now, let's dive into how to build a Rockerboy character for Cyberpunk Red. First thing, right out of the gate, and this is going to hold true for all of the role videos I make, these are suggestions rather than absolutes. The beauty of tabletop role-playing games is building characters that speak to you and seem fun to play. Think of the following sections as the expected build for a prototypical Rockerboy. Again, this is my opinion and should be taken with a grain of salt. The first key piece of character building isn't the cultural origin of your character, which can be any background, but personality. Rockerboys are rebels at heart. rallying the masses to buck the system. Using that as a benchmark, the two personality options from the main life path that fit best would be rebellious, antisocial, and violent, or moody, rash, and headstrong. You could make a case for friendly and outgoing as well, or maybe even silly and fluff-headed if you're going for a rocker boy that uses charm rather than bombast to get their message across. Clothing style, hairstyle, and affectation are the next options to think about. If you're going for more of a punk aesthetic like Johnny Silverhand, you'll tend to go for bohemian as your preferred clothing style, maybe a mohawk or wild and all over for the hairstyle, and then spiked gloves or spiked boots or heels for the affectation. But let's say you're going for more of a Lizzy-Wizzy kind of rocker boy. In that case, your clothing style might lend toward high fashion or Asia pop. Your hairstyle could go with long and straight or wild colors, and your affectation would be strange contacts or strange fingernail implants. When you're building your rocker boy, consider how they would present themselves to the world and how their style would dictate how they approach their artistic output and interactions with fans. Original background could play a big factor in how you conceptualize your rocker boy character. Where your rocker boy comes from would play directly into what kind of artistic output they create and how they view the world. A rocker boy who grew up as part of a nomad pack might have a folksier, Willie Nelson style approach to music, as an example. Meanwhile, a rocker boy who spent their childhood as one of the urban homeless or as megastructure Warren rats is probably going to have some anger issues and fall more into the industrial punk rock style of rocker boy. Environment and family crisis should also be considered carefully when playing a rocker boy. If your character was running around on the streets without supervision, that character would have a different perspective than one who spent their life on the road moving from place to place as part of a nomad family. The family crisis should also play into how your rocker boy approaches trying to upend the system and raise hell. If your family lost everything because of betrayal or they were imprisoned, that's going to cause the perspective of your rocker boy to skew toward a heavy amount of cynicism. When I originally went over the life path system for character creation, I mentioned that each role has their own specific life path options. Role-specific life paths focus on a series of questions and the options available to answer that question. The first question is, what kind of rocker boy are you? Which leads to options like musician, slam poet, politico, and rap artist. The next question focuses on if you're part of a group or a solo act. If you decide you're a solo act, the obvious question would be, were you once part of a group? If you decide your rocker boy was formerly part of a group, there are options for why your character left the group, including you were voted out or your group broke apart due to creative differences. Once you've established if you are part of a group or a solo act, the next concern is, where does your character typically perform? Your rocker boy could be working private clubs, guerrilla performances on the streets, or exclusively on the data pool, which is effectively the city's internet service. Keep in mind, these aren't locked in and static options. Think of these as more of the origin story of where your rocker boy cut their teeth to reach the point where you start your edge runner career. The last question is one that is going to pop up for practically every single role in the individual life paths. Who's gunning for you? This is a great way to hand your game master a ready-made antagonist that they can use to create stories around in the future. The options are varied, such as an old group member with a grudge to corporate enemies who you've called out and they want to shut you down. All of the options here are solid and generic enough that your game master can tweak them to work with nearly any Cyberpunk Red campaign. The next stage in a Rockerboy's character build is your stats. Up on the screen, you'll see the Street Rat and Edge Runner template for Rockerboys. If you're using the Street Rat template, just roll one 10-sided die, and the line corresponding to your number is the line of stats you jot down. If you want to roll for each stat, you would roll a 10-sided dice 10 times. After each roll, consult the chart for the stat, starting with intelligence, and write down that number. Continue until you filled in all 10 stats. If you're using the complete package option, I would suggest using the Street Rat Edge Runner template as a guide to where your focus should be with a Rockerboy character. There are a couple of stats that could be considered dump stats for a Rockerboy, specifically intelligence and body, which don't go above 5, with the one exception of a 7 in the intelligence on one line. Most of the rest of the stats tend to range between a 5 and a 7, which is a good starting number. The 3 main stats I would focus on with a Rockerboy build are Cool, Will, and Empathy. Cool and Empathy play into the social skills that Rockerboys are known for, and Will gives you the boost for your hit points. A high Empathy score also impacts your Humanity point total, which will determine how much Cyberware you can install in your Rockerboy. Luck and Move could also be your dump stats if you want to build up your Rockerboy's other stats, but Luck is one I wouldn't consider putting lower than a 5. Moving on from stats to skills, the Street Rat template for Rockerboy puts a heavy emphasis on both combat and social skills. Brawling and Evasion both have 6 ranks, as does Handgun and Melee Weapon, meaning your Rockerboy is well versed in how to defend themselves and avoid damage. You also have 6 ranks in Human Perception, Streetwise, and Persuasion, which lends itself to a character that is accustomed to knowing what's going on the streets, how to talk to people, and how to catch people when they're not telling you the whole truth. And since Rockerboys always have to make a statement, Composition and Play Instrument also have 6 ranks in them. Wardrobe and Style, as well as Personal Grooming, have 4 ranks in them, which shows that Rockerboys tend to put a greater emphasis on looking the part when they interact with the public. If you go with the Edge Runner template, this is just a list of the suggested skills for a Rockerboy to put ranks into. The 13 entries in bold are the skills that you have to have at least 2 ranks in as part of character creation. But you'll also notice that there isn't any deviation in terms of what skills are here from the Street Rat template I just showed. This is more of a free-form approach, but there's still a bit of a rigid structure. The complete package build obviously gets rid of this structure entirely, but I would encourage anyone using the complete package option to review the Edge Runner list to see what skills make a certain amount of sense for a Rockerboy to have. The Street Rat Edge Runner template for weapons and armor for a Rockerboy is fairly straightforward. Starting off with a very heavy pistol and basic ammunition is a good choice, since very heavy pistols can lay down a lot of damage but are limited to a single shot per round of combat. Carrying a heavy melee weapon into combat is never a bad idea, especially if you put points into dexterity, which is the stat tied to the melee weapon. A Rockerboy that is more of a gunslinger is going to have a heavier reflex focus, since that is what the handgun skill is attached to. You could also start off with a flashbang grenade instead of a heavy melee weapon if you are more of a gunslinger kind of Rockerboy. Tear gas grenades also give the impression of a Rockerboy is out to cause some mayhem, which fits the role perfectly. Light armor jack for the head and body is standard across pretty much every role right out of the gate. A Rockerboy's gear and outfits are an important part of their character, and the Street Rat Edge Runner template fills in the gaps on what a Rockerboy would start off with. An agent is a given, since everyone has one in the time of the Red. The fact that you can choose between an electric guitar or a bug detector is a testament to the skewed priorities of a Rockerboy: performance or paranoia. The video camera makes sense, particularly if your Rockerboy likes to upload performances to the data pool to gain traction and attention. And the inclusion of generic chic, leisure wear, and urban flash clothing options suggests a character who knows how to appear stylish without being completely over the top. Last but not least is the Cyberware entry for the Rockerboy's character creation. Rockerboy characters don't necessarily need a lot of cybernetics, as seen from the Street Rat Edge Runner template shown here. Cyber Audio Suite with the Audio Recorder Edition makes sense for a Rockerboy to be able to record their work if they don't have access to a camera or a typical recording device. Tech Hair and Chem Skin combined grant a bonus to personal grooming skill checks, which fits well for a Rockerboy that wants to make an impression. Obviously, when it comes to weapons, armor, gear, outfits, and cyberware, if you're going with the complete package build, it's up to you what you want to include in your Rockerboys arsenal. Every character needs to be prepared for a fight, and building a Rockerboy who can handle themselves physically is never a bad idea. But the strengths of a Rockerboy aren't in their abilities to take down a gonk on a cyber psycho binge. Where a Rockerboy's strengths lie is in being able to rally individuals and groups to their cause. Every role in Cyberpunk Red has an ability that is unique to them and provides them with access to traits or skills that facilitate their role in the crew. For Rockerboys, that ability is called Charismatic Impact. As it shows above, this basically exemplifies the force of personality a Rockerboy can wield to influence their fans to do what they want. To make people a fan of your Rockerboy, you will roll one 10-sided dice and add the ranks you have in Charismatic Impact, which should be 4 ranks at character creation, but can be increased with improvement points. If you're trying to turn a single person into a fan, the difficulty value is 8. Meaning you would have to roll at least a 4 or better on a 10-sided die to win over a single person. If it's a small group of up to 6 people, the difficulty value increases to 10. If you are trying to turn a large group of people, meaning 7 or more individuals, the difficulty value increases to 12. Your Game Master will let you know if people are already fans of your Rockerboy or not during gameplay. If your Rockerboy tries to influence people who are already fans, the difficulty values remain the same, and you still roll one 10-sided dice and add the ranks you have in Charismatic Impact to the die roll to see if you succeed in getting them to do what your Rockerboy wants. If you fail the roll, you can't try to ask for the same favor from your fans for a week in game time. As your rank in Charismatic Impact increases, you gain larger venues where your Rockerboy can perform in, and the impact you have on a single fan, a small group of fans, or a huge group of fans increases. If you are playing a Rockerboy at character creation, you start off with 4 ranks in Charismatic Impact automatically. But if you decide you want to multiclass into Rockerboy after starting off in another role, it's good to know what the lower ranks are capable of. For Charismatic Impact ranks 1 and 2, your Rockerboy is just starting out, so you're playing venues like small local clubs, small coffee shops, or maybe even illegal street performances. Rockerboys can influence a single fan to help give them a ride somewhere, maybe even buy the Rockerboy a meal or a drink. A small group of fans will stop to befriend a Rockerboy, ask for autographs, maybe even try to get some kind of personal effects from the Rockerboy. At ranks 1 and 2, you don't have a large group of fans since you're just starting out. Charismatic Impact ranks 3 and 4 jump things up a notch. This is where a Rockerboy will start at when creating a Rockerboy from the get-go. The venues have grown to include the more well-known and established clubs in a given area. A single fan of the Rockerboy can be convinced to do a major favor for them, maybe even spend the night with the Rockerboy, or do them a solid and help them win favor with someone else. A small group of fans will hang out with the Rockerboy in the clubs and make sure the Rockerboy has everything they need for a night out on the town. A huge group of fans will start a local movement to support the Rockerboy, including buying their recordings and merch. At ranks 5 and 6 in Charismatic Impact, the Rockerboy character is now starting to have access to the larger clubs in their city, maybe even starting to branch out into playing in other nearby cities as well. A single fan of the Rockerboy can be convinced to help out in a fight, maybe even engage in some petty theft or vandalism for the Rockerboy. A small group of fans will become the Rockerboy's entourage or posse, constantly hanging out with them, making sure the Rockerboy's personal needs are being met, and doing favors for them. A huge group of fans at this stage are strongly loyal to the Rockerboy and will do major favors for them just to have a moment of the Rockerboy's attention. The seeds of a cult-like following are starting to show at this point in the ranks. When you reach ranks 7 and 8 in Charismatic Impact, you've upgraded your venues to small concert halls, and you regularly appear on local video feeds for your city, maybe even the surrounding cities as well. A single fan is willing to put their life on the line for the Rockerboy without hesitation. A small group of fans will shoplift or vandalize for the Rockerboy and would jump in to help the Rockerboy in a fight if needed. A huge group of fans are rabid followers at this stage. They will pick fights both on the data pool and face-to-face with rival fan groups. You'll also see your fans becoming an information network that could rival even a fixer or media's access to contacts. If the Rockerboy puts out a call to the huge group of fans at this stage, the fans listen and will help. Charismatic Impact Rank 9 is where your Rockerboy is now a national sensation. You've moved up to appearing on national news and video feeds, and you're playing large concert halls or small arenas. A single fan can be easily convinced to commit a major crime for the Rockerboy, including thievery or assaulting someone for the Rockerboy. A small group of fans will also be willing to commit a major crime for the Rockerboy without hesitation. The huge group of fans is where things can get really disturbing, because at this point, your Rockerboy has created a cult following. Your huge group of fans live and breathe on your every word and will go to the wall for you without a second thought. Which leads us finally to Charismatic Impact Rank 10. At this point, you've maxed out your ranks in this role, and you are an international superstar. You routinely perform stadium tours and appear on video feeds across the world. A single fan will lay down their life for the Rockerboy without giving it a second thought. A small group of fans would also risk their lives for the Rockerboy, including acting as personal bodyguards. A huge group of fans are a worldwide following at this stage, and they will do pretty much anything the Rockerboy asks of them. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that Rockerboys can act as the face of the party, the person who ends up talking more often than not. With the outline I just went over for Charismatic Impact, it's clear that Rockerboys can be the social butterflies of the crew, but that also has its downsides. Rockerboys are just as likely to talk your crew of edgerunners into a difficult situation as they are to talk the crew out of one. And as their charismatic impact ranks increase, it wouldn't be out of the norm for the ego of a Rockerboy character to begin growing worse and worse. Look at Johnny Silverhand as a prime example. Johnny, as you see in Cyberpunk 2077, was a bastard, and outwardly cared very little for the harm he caused around him. In game terms, I'd say you could make the argument that Johnny was a rank 8 or rank 9 Rockerboy by the time he led the riots against Arasaka Tower in 2013. It's important to remember that in Cyberpunk, there are no superheroes. At best, you're an anti-hero or a reluctant hero. Something else to consider when creating your Rockerboy is if you intend to multiclass into one of the other roles later on down the road. One of the DLCs for Cyberpunk Red goes over what a Rockerboy multiclassing into other roles would look like. The first example is a Rockerboy solo, which fits Johnny Silverhand, given that Johnny started off as a soldier in a megacorp army before becoming a rock star. An interesting combination could be a Rockerboy media, since both roles rely heavily on social interactions to get people to open up to them. A Rockerboy media could leverage their contacts and audience in effective and potentially destructive ways. I've played a Rockerboy fixer, and it's also a strong combination. Fixers also rely on social skills that you can build up as a Rockerboy, and having the ability to move through different subcultures helps immensely. It also doesn't hurt that as you gain ranks in the Fixer's role ability, it becomes easier for the Rockerboy to acquire the things they need for their performances. That covers it for the Rockerboy role breakdown. Be sure to leave your comments and questions below. Definitely hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified when I drop more content, and check out my Patreon to get early access to these scripts as well as exclusives only available on Patreon. Next up, I'll be doing a deep dive into the solo role, which is the most combat-focused role in Cyberpunk Red. Thanks for watching, Chooms.